Here we are on day 42 of our spiritual journey towards a more generous life. I hope that you are enjoying this as much as I am. This is wonderful. I was talking with my grandmother, and she was telling me about how much money she had left in her life and how much she was going to give to her children. And I said, "What? You're giving money to your children when you die?" And I said, "Why don't you just give it all away now and do something with it that you want the Lord to do?" She says, "Oh, my children," she said, they'll do something good with it. And I said, but you're not following Scripture if you leave it to your children." And I smiled real big, and she says, "What? What do you mean I'm not following Scripture if I leave it to my children?" And I said, "Well, Proverbs 13:22 says, 'A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous.'" Have you thought about the principle for today? Your generosity can outlast you. Now, I was just teasing with my grandmother. She thought I wanted her to leave the money all to me, but there were some other children's children to leave it to as well. But can what we give really outlast us? We've already looked at the principle of we're laying up treasure for ourselves in heaven. That's the place to lay up the treasure, is in heaven, where we're seeking God's kingdom first. Paul, when he was writing to the church at Philippi in chapter 4, verse 17, he says, "Not that I am looking for a gift, but I am looking for what may be credited to your account." You see, what is credited to our account is of more value than even what we do here for ourselves on earth. 1 Corinthians 4:2 says it is required that those who have been given a trust must prove themselves faithful. In our blog today, Ellen White, writing in Adventist Home, page 397, she says, "The disposing of your property by will to your relatives. Be sure you remember God's cause. You are His agents. Holding His property and His claims should have your first consideration. Your wife and your children, of course, should not be left destitute. Provision should be made for them." Do we think about God's cause? My question for you is, do you have a will? Do you have something so that what you have is left appropriately? I often challenge individuals that have children. Be sure you have a will, because who knows what's going to happen to you. But then individuals say, "Well, I really don't need a will. I don't have enough money that's left so that I don't have anything to give away." Again, I challenge you, you need to have a will. I heard the story about an individual who did not have a will. They were driving down the road and they were hit by a semi-truck and killed. The family filed suit, and the estate of that individual ended up with over $200,000 in damages, to be divided by the family because there was no will. You see what can happen? We don't know how much our estate will be worth when we die, but we need to have a plan. The question is, are we going to be faithful stewards? You see, we're stewards alive, and we can be good stewards in death also. Be faithful. Live generously, because your generous life can outlast you as you put treasures in heaven. I encourage you again, continue to live generously.